100% podcast.
Okay, and we're live. Welcome back to You Deserve a Drink podcast. This is Matthew, and I'm joined with Rizzle, and we're really amped to bring you all another special interview with not one, but two builders in the crypto space who are creating a very pretty way to mint and sell NFTs. We're really excited to be joined by both Nate Geier and Caroline Wend of the Mintbase project, the Ethereum-based tool that lets anyone quickly and simply mint non-fungible tokens and spin up their own individual NFT markets. Welcome to the show, Nate and Caroline.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Hi.
And well, to get started, if you could both introduce yourselves, and then after that, if one of you could introduce your project Mintbase and tell us all a little bit about what Mintbase is and the problems it's solving, I think that'd be a great way to get started.
Perfect. So I will start. I'm Carolin, and I work with Nate on Mintbase. And so I used to work at German Parliament and in ticketing as well. And in Parliament, my focus was blockchain technology. And then I met Nate. And I have been working with Mintbase for maybe over a year now. And
Yeah, and that's where I come in. So I started this company probably at DevCon 4. I ended up winning the DevCon 4 hackathon in Prague. And as soon as I did that, I had a ticket back to the US, but I realized everyone told me, hey man, you should go to Berlin. That's kind of where a lot of the people are building stuff. So I came over here for maybe a couple weeks and ended up landing at a place called Full Node, which is like one of the centers of the co-working space in the blockchain world. And that's where I met Carl. And what does Mintbase do? It is an easy way to mint non-fungible tokens through just an easy interface. I don't know if you want me to give you the long, detailed spiel, but we can probably inch into that over the conversation.
Yeah. And well, I think a way to inch into that would be to talk about who's using Mintbase currently. So I know you started off, I think your first real use case was last year during the Berlin Blockchain Week when you worked together with Love Art Hate and Metacartel for those NFTs as tickets. But since then, who has been using Mintbase? What are some of the interesting use cases? And then I guess heading forward, what are some of the ways that you anticipate folks using Mintbase for, utility or access tokens or anything like that?
Definitely. So how it all really got started. So my company, I worked for a company called Bumped, where you basically can swipe your debit or credit card at any company publicly traded. So if you go to Starbucks, at the end of the week, we'll give you fractional shares of publicly traded stock as a reward. So I go to Starbucks, go to Best Buy, pay your electric bill. You essentially get rewards automatically as shares of stock. The DevCon 4 hackathon kind of took that same idea. It was okay, find your debit or credit card and say you run a coffee shop. Maybe you mint a couple of non-fungible tokens and you set a threshold of, say, $50. And if someone comes into your shop and spends $50, the non-fungible token will automatically get allocated to your card. So my focus is definitely on the utility aspect. As soon as I built that and actually got the thing running and working, I realized, how the hell am I going to convince a bunch of blockchain people to hook up their debit or credit card, and realize that I need to really focus on basically the base and the simplicity of the non-fungible tokens. I actually realized greater down the road how difficult working with blockchain actually is. And so just the minting process alone has taken a ton of mental research and focus. So I realized get rid of all the complexity of this credit debit card piece and just focus on how do we make it really, really, really simple for someone to mint non-fungible tokens. And I think we've gotten that sorted. It's really, really complicated to build a platform on blockchain that appeases basically anybody. Everyone has their own opinions about where metadata should be stored, about where how easy it should be to see the contract code, all these different things. So basically, we strict everything down, all the complexity, and we realized, okay, let's figure out how to make minting and managing the tokens work and sync with the blockchain correctly, and then go from there, which I'm very proud that we've finally figured out how to do that.
Yeah, and our users, so the first user was Peter from Meta Cartel. So we did ticketing for the demo day back in August last year. And we've recently seen like many amazing crypto artists who use our platform. So it's really exciting, like how creative people are on our platform. So it's not just being used by promoters and events, but also like crypto artists. And yeah,
the demo day was really, really amazing because we just launched it in I wouldn't say June. June is when we went to mainnet. And then Peter was working with me, and he was like, wait, what are you working on over there? And eventually he's like, we need to use that for tickets. And I said, all right, sure, why not? And then we did it. It worked really, really well, actually. Now everybody, Peter ended up making over $6,000 through the smart contract. We made a handsome 1% fee. I think it was like $20 out of the whole thing. You can go and you can see 224 tickets were sold. You can go on Etherscan. You could see all the individual addresses. And we even built like a really simple redeemer where users would basically check in using their dApp browser that would fire open their dApp browser, would check if they're the owner, and would check to see if they spoofed the page. Basically, we had a WebSocket that you click a button and it basically showed whether or not it was a real app that we had built.
So I have a question for you guys, and I'm in sort of like an interesting situation now where I launched these series of posts with these googly eyes that people keep asking me to mint, and I'm the options are daunting, and I'm pretty well versed in this space, probably more than the average person, but it seems like if you're someone like me, you got something that you want to mint, you've got a few different options of like either sort of joining into like a conglomerate, like a known origin, super rare, maker's place type of thing. Or it seems like there are different projects popping up like you guys where you can almost just like sort of go rogue and take a lot more control over the project. Is I guess my, basic understanding. So I guess I'm just interested to hear like, if you've got someone who's looking at all the options out there, what do you guys offer something like some advantage or like, why would someone go with you versus going in a different direction?
Got it. So the biggest, two big things from us. The one thing that separates us, I guess, from the known origins and the super rares and the maker's place is that you create your own smart contract. A few of the other projects do the exact same, but I think we're the only ones out of any of them that actually have verified smart contracts. And that's a really, really, really big difference. What a verified contract is. So as soon as you mint on Mintbase, you can go into your market and there's a little white hash, long string of letters and numbers in the market. You click on that and that'll open up the token. And you'll see a little tab on Etherscan that basically shows read or write contract. Basically, that's all the ERC 721 functions. So if you're not the owner of the contract, anyone else can go to that contract and see a lot of the information. They could see how many are total, how many were created. They can click all sorts of neat little buttons that show total supply and so on and so forth. If you are the owner of the contract, you can go into write contract, and you can even edit these buttons and add different things without using our interface. So we're a team of two people. One, I'm the one who's done the development and design. I haven't had time to build all the functions that you get with the ERC 721s. But you can basically go in there directly and manipulate the stuff yourself. Like another one is like add minters. You can add multiple minters to a single contract. It's your own contract. And what gets really weird, I know everyone's up in arms about IPFS and everybody running on that. But if you really look at it, a lot of these platforms, if you don't have a verified contract, you don't even know if they have the capability of updating the token URI. So if they're pointing to a certain IPFS node that they're running of their own, anyways, that's a whole other discussion that we'll get into probably later. But the most important thing is transparency. It's open. Anyone can fork our contract and make their own Mintbase if they want, and so on. A lot of other pieces. hyper-focused on utility. So kind of I've noticed a few questions were on Unlocked. Great guy. Met him a couple times at DevCon in Osaka. Great product. That's kind of where our brains are at. We want these tokens to do things. I know, Rizzle, you're pretty into like ownership, digital ownership. It's a big thing to us that we want our subscriptions in the future to like a Netflix subscription. You don't actually own your subscription. If you need to cancel it, you have to go through Netflix and maybe talk to a sales manager or go through that process. If you actually have an NFT as your subscription, then you can go to OpenSea and sell it on an exchange there, or you can give it to a friend, or you can move it around. That's kind of what we want. We want these things to kind of relinquish all the things. And so just an example of our first utility token we published last week, which now that we have the token management sorted, now we're focused more on what can we do with these tokens and how can they be, actually give us something. So we ended up minting a moderator token where we gave it to Sparrow of Lenara to basically, whenever they look at our market, they get a little flag. So the browser checks to say, oh, they're signed in. They are the owner of the moderator, Mintbase moderator token, and now they're able to actually flag content that's on our market. And why that's going to get even weirder is it'd be really neat for other platforms to actually say, hey, these are some verified moderators. We like them very much. They can now start using, that to basically say, yeah, they are the owners of the token. They can start moderating maybe their platforms as well.
Dude, this is fascinating. I had no idea that all this stuff was going on. It seems like you guys, like some crypto artists have like sort of glommed onto what you guys are doing. But and I was, flipping through your website and everything and trying to figure out like exactly what Mintbase was. I'm like, are you guys like sort of like an OpenSea competitor type of thing? But to me, it sounds like you're sort of going in like a totally different direction than a lot of this stuff. I mean, is that sort of like the lane you're going for?
Yeah, the lane, I think I really, really, really like the way Maker's Place is laid out, and Rarible and Known Origin. They're beautiful websites. Design is so important into applications. But we're probably closer more towards the Unlocked mentality of, okay, here's a token, what can it do? We think the collectability is a great asset, but what excites me more is more of like, okay, what if I'm an artist, maybe a photographer, and so I'm a surfer myself. I ended up commissioning someone from Australia to, he's a big wave surfer and a big wave surf photographer. And I ended up paying him through some sketchy way that he sent me the source files later. And in my house, I had basically all these beautiful pictures that I blew up because I had the raw source files. I want the same thing where token owners are able to buy the token, and then that sort of gives them a key to see, okay, great, now I can download the raw source files. To me, that's kind of like more the direction where we're heading is like, yes, the collectability is neat, but also what other crazy things can we do with these tokens?
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I'm also a big believer in emphasizing the enhanced utility that NFTs you're able to kind of build on. And again, like you highlighted, Unlock, they're doing great things with subscriptions. I think what you guys are doing with the mod token, which I heard about from Sparrow, aka Blackbox.art, and saw on your marketplace as well. Like, I think that tool in and of itself is also something that you could take and approach other projects and just like help them understand that you are a service provider and you have all these tools and you're building all these use cases to present to all these different projects for different ways that they can use the NFTs and incorporate it within their projects. I think that's awesome.
Exactly. The next step is to go even a step further, and everyone keeps complaining like, why are certain things on your featured market? Why aren't I on your featured market list? I'm like, well, it'd be great if token holders can maybe vote on that, and then their vote actually creates who gets featured and who doesn't get featured.
Totally. Well, I think everyone knows that there's been a couple questions that were posed within the replies to our call for questions for this conversation of ours. I think Jimmy Eth, Skeeny, Puffin were the ones that explicitly asked this question regarding the metadata and where it's saved and things like that. So, well, I'm just curious, first of all, just for everyone's sake, I know you have a really brilliant FAQ that actually details the answer, I think, to this question. But just for everyone that hasn't read that or doesn't have time to read it, if you could explain why you have not, as of yet, used a service like IPFS to store the images and other metadata associated with NFTs. And then give us the lay of the land in terms of heading forward and how maybe you have plans to progressively decentralize the storage of the image data and the metadata associated with these NFTs.
Definitely. Yeah, to start off, the bonuses of IPFS, I mean, on paper is absolutely amazing. I love immutability. Go through all of our front end code and you won't see a single let, everything's a constant. I like to hit a thing and then have that always be updating and changing. I've been a big proponent of immutability for a long, long time, just in standard code. To start off with the IPFS thing, you first need to understand the difference between distributed and decentralized. When someone says, why isn't your data decentralized? That's a whole nother conversation. So when you think about IPFS, you have to know that it's a distributed network. The difference between decentralized is we have a blockchain, right? In order to get consensus, you have to have 51% of the nodes to basically say, yeah, these things are correct. In a distributed network, basically, you're just putting files on different computers, probably 4 or 5 at a time, not across 51% of the machines. And this isn't new stuff. We've had distributed systems for a while. Think of like Napster. Napster back in the day, they basically allowed computers to download a file, stick it in a cache, and then you can grab that cache from different computers. The problem with that is basically if everyone decides that the Britney Spears song that you downloaded back in 2000, whatever, Napster was a big thing. If everyone decides that's a terrible song, nobody wants to host it and hasn't been pinged in a while, that's just going to get removed because computers aren't going to host it anymore. So if that file is stored in 4 different machines, cache, and all those 4 different computers go offline, then all of a sudden you have no more file. So when everyone says my data is going to live forever, the live forever is a whole other conversation. So when people say that they're going to store their data on chain, I'm incredibly skeptical. I want to actually see it running. Even if they do, that content has to be insanely basic. Some basic SVG clip art, maybe. Because every time you put stuff into the chain, we have these gas limits that basically says you can only put up so much stuff into a single block before it just gets too bloated to create and mint. That's why Mintbase has a 25 mint limit. You can only mint 25 tokens in a single batch. So another big thing is a lot of people are very excited about these platforms that are hosting on IPFS, but how much do you actually know is it on IPFS? And even if it is on IPFS, maybe the raw files are, but who knows if they're grabbing on their secret servers and pulling the data from different locations. We can see that the image itself is cached on IPFS, but what about the metadata source? And not only that, so the whole point of storing these files in IPFS is you basically have a lot of these like 721s, you put a function in that basically says, here's the base URI. So the base URI is important. You need to be able to change that base URI. So everyone is basically putting all these files into one base node. If it's not a verified contract, then we just have to trust that the company does have a way to change the base URI. Not only that, but if the company goes under, we have to trust that they're going to change it to a proper spot. And if they go under, are they just going to put the base URI to an open to some open gateway? Those things are slow as hell. So that's a whole other point, which puts me into my new thought, and we're launching it quite soon, is sorry, that was a big old tangent, but I'm a little passionate about this. My main thing is we want it to be in a decentralized distributed system. I think there's a thing called Psi that's coming out that I'm watching quite closely, but that guy went full Bitcoin blockchain, which is not my favorite. But it's the idea is basically you pay for upload and you pay for download, and it's fully on a distributed system, and it is a live forever metadata. Go ahead. Oh yeah. And it's very, 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 very slow. So basically what you end up doing is you push a bunch of these files to a bunch of machines, and if they're hosting it properly, then you can grab it. They call it file discovery. So if I upload a file to IPFS in one node, let's say in Fura, and then I go into the gateway, the public gateway, I'm going to hit that URL, and it could take anywhere from like 1 minute to 10 minutes to actually pull that file and load it. That just makes an application unusable. And then the last big note is, okay, we have pinning. Are you guys familiar with pinning?
Oh yeah, like using a service like Pinata to pin for the file so that it stays in IPFS longer, but that itself is centralized. Am I incorrect?
Exactly. And so what we're I don't think it's a horrible way of doing things, but then now we're trusting Pinata to do it correctly. And to do that correctly, you have to, I mean, they're hosting on multiple, they call them clusters. And so when you load it to one file, it doesn't just stay on that one node, it goes to multiple nodes because deeper topic. But that's why we're going to start developing a Minters DAO to actually have people decide what the right place is for this content. So in a Minters DAO, if everyone says, yeah, IPFS is the way, the Pinata is the way, here's the open node where we can point the base URI to, Mintbase dies tomorrow, then the DAO will live on, and then they can decide whether they want to move that base URI. That's kind of where we're going to start heading. But for now, it was about, here's all these IPFS problems. There's a whole bunch of them. I'm one human building this system, and so my goal is to get the token management sorted, which we did, and that's pretty sorted. And now we're going to start pushing into this Minter DAO of how do we, as a community, host and store our data.
Well, first of all, thank you for that super detailed explanation. I think detail on this point is incredibly important, just so that everyone has a clear lay of the land and what's completely possible, what makes sense to implement now, and then what the potential trade-offs are. But I'm not sure if you're able to answer this. I just want to throw the question out there. Since one of Mintbase's main selling points is that verified contract aspect, and there are a couple other projects in the space that have increasing volumes of users minting through their smart contracts. And I mean, a lot of people are throwing around the fact that some of these other projects employ IPFS to store at least some of the metadata or images, maybe. Since you definitely have a more technical lens into this space, I'm just wondering, are there any projects that you know of that maybe people need to kind of ask more detailed questions about, like what really is being stored on IPFS versus maybe a shadow server or something like that? This is kind of a dangerous question, but
yeah, Hans, I think of Proof of Art. Have you did you see his OpenSea project that he had where he was changing the metadata every day?
Yeah,
that was neat. I like that a lot. He basically went into everybody and he's saying we're changing the metadata. What I love about the artist community, so I've been in the blockchain scene pretty deep since 2014. I think I bought my first Bitcoin when it was shooting down, and been in this thing for a bit. And I've been to a lot of conferences. What's really fascinating about the artist community is I feel like it's the first non-heavy engineer group that's really trying to understand what's going on. At first, I thought spank chains, the sex industry was going to figure this out because they need it. And they've always been the innovators in the space, right? The first payments was done through pornography. But I was wrong. The people that are actually really, really trying to understand this is the artist community. And so shout out to Mr. Hans for doing that. To me, it's just like, yeah, let's start asking questions. We also don't have a massive marketing team. It's just us two. So we're getting there to be able to do that kind of stuff.
Dude, I must be from the artist community because I'm like, I can't step to Nate's like developer knowledge here. I'm like flipping through my questions. I'm like, holy shit, there's nothing I can ask Nate that's going to make it's like give him a good lob for like a developer question here. But it's cool to like hear someone from the other end of things who is like super passionate about this and like clearly, knows their stuff inside out and everything. It's fascinating, man.
Yeah, thanks. It's really going to be an interesting line. The line between keeping your stuff open and keeping because we're working really hard. At the end of the day, someone can just fork our contract and create their own Mintbase. We're kind of gambling on the bet that we're going to keep it as open as possible and just keep building our interface as quickly as possible. And yeah, we'll see if we can keep the balance.
I mean, with that openness comes like, at least as of late, seems like treading into like dangerous waters, right? Do you guys have to worry about like anyone like just minting like basically anything, intellectual property conversation, that whole thing? Or is it like if someone mints something, through your guys' contract, is that they are assuming total responsibility for any lawsuits that may come their way if they're minting stuff that they shouldn't be, or how does that factor into what you guys are doing?
Yeah, as of today, our store count isn't massive. It's 187, and just as an experiment, we did that moderators token just to start combing through this sort of stuff, and it's very reactionary. It's if we see some art that we know wasn't someone's, because the artist community is quite small. We're able to see some work on our platform, and to find out who actually did that, we can ping them on Twitter and, ask them if they are who they say they are. So at this point, it's an open system.
And also, like, we have Sparrow and Lenara who really help us out so much. Like, they are so inspirational, and without them, we wouldn't be where we are right now. So that's really, impressive to have that support too from the artist community.
Yeah. And that said too, not to go back into IPFS land, as we do believe in it, our entire back end is basically running off of IPFS. It's a platform called The Graph. So anybody can actually look at that. It's on our website. If you go to it and you scroll down, you'll see the API, the graph. You'll click to it. You click a button, and that is just one query call that you'll see pop up that has all of the bot count, how many things have been bought on our platform. There's a store count. That's how many smart contracts were created on our platform. Token count, transfer count, value count. It's not massive, but it works. So if you ever want to see how much money we're actually making, you can go to that value count. 12.77 ETH has flown through our system in 2 months. So we've taken 2% of that. So I think it's a solid $60. But what's fascinating about that is that subscription WebSocket URL on that. Our entire interface runs off of that link and those queries. So you can actually build your own Mintbase and use all of our system off of that WebSocket URI.
How do you, obviously to make this profitable, you've got to scale it like exponentially, right? Or is there some like adaptation of this technology that you feel will, get you a healthier cut of that 2% or make that healthier cut? Or what's the long play?
Yeah, good question. So I think your brains are right where our brains are at. There's something magical in this NFT space. And I think this like collector's threshold is such a minuscule part of it. I think really we're just pushing new experiments every single day. Like I said, with the Netflix subscription, if we're the ones running basically the process and driving a lot of like the mass adoption pushing, then we think that this will play out pretty well. So we're going to start moving into different models. We want sort of like to give a base. We always want to have a really healthy area where it allows anyone who's never minted an NFT to come on and easily do it. But there's going to be a point where we're going to require maybe an NFT, a bot NFT, to maybe upload heavier big files or to do something a little more complicated on our system. So for the most part, we're always going to have a nice free open area where we can just make it easy for people to mint tokens on our platform. But then we see in the future that once we start getting bigger, we have a pretty large conference in the pipeline, which would actually do us fine with that 2%.
That's cool. And well, I think just having that experimentation mindset right now is probably one of the most exciting things about your project, just because we're not sure what's going to be next, but we know that you guys are going to be experimenting on a lot of different fronts. But what are your near-term plans or targets? But I just saw the other day that Nate is getting his hands dirty again in CryptoVoxels and maybe potentially thinking about a new build. But yeah, just like what is on your near-term horizon in terms of Mintbase and just the general activities that you guys want to focus and potentially build out on your project and around it.
Definitely. Yeah, that was so I had a nice glass of wine on last Saturday, sat down with my CryptoVoxel, was like, all right, new start, completely just refreshed, everything exploded and gone. And then I'm sitting there just blopping around. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make one giant block, of both those big properties. So everything was a giant just block. And that took forever and my hands hurt. Didn't even use a mouse for that. And then I was like, I'm going to chisel away at it and then make a little cave in there and then chisel away from the inside out and make bigger rooms as I go and just sort of see how it goes. I ended up making almost the identical last platform. It's the same process. There's a little loft up top. Like I was gonna have the big house was gonna be a floating thing, and then I ended up with like that's a waste of space. Like why would I have a floating? Yeah, it's neat, but everyone's doing floating things now. So and then I got done with it. I'm like, well, might as well just get rid of the second floor. And I'm like, this is identical to my last. One big wall and a loft, and then a big open showroom.
Yeah, the Advent calendar was really, really a lot of fun. And what I think made it so special is the support from the community. Like we had all different NFT projects on board. We had you guys, you were involved too. You pushed it a lot. And then we had all those artists and I don't know, like Gitcoin, NFT Cred, even OpenSea, they also participated. And yeah, basically our like what's next in terms of marketing and like promotion is never try, never know. So we will experiment with our partners because that's what is so exciting about the space is that it's so small right now, like the NFT space, that we all know what the other like project is working on or some kind of like we can shape it still, and we have to like stick together in order to get mass adoption. Yeah, our entire marketing strategy is build weird, neat things, and then people use it and go, hey, I know what Mintbase is now. Like the ticketing for Metacartel was a ton of marketing. At the end of the day, it's just we built something, It's never try, never know.
Yeah. Yeah. But to that note, it's also a good segue into like our beliefs in competition, right? That's what's more special about our platform than other platforms, and blah, there's so many details. Our view behind it all is kind of how I view. So I'm from Portland, Oregon, and we have a really, really good wine industry. So the only reason that our wine industry really flourished was because Napa was a big deal, right? And really nice wine's actually kind of a new thing to the U.S. Like the 50s and 60s, no one drank fine wine. But so the next thing besides Napa turned into is Oregon or Washington going to basically flourish? And so what ended up happening was Oregon had sort of their own DAO where if something broke, if someone's tractor broke in the winter, and someone needed to give the person a tractor, they were very like helpful to each other. Whereas Washington's wine industry was garbage because they all were competing against each other, and so they didn't really grow that much. And so now Oregon has this flourishing ecosystem for wine. I think it's the same thing with this NFT space. I think we're all going to be able to find our own little weird slivers. The people from like Super Rare and OpenSea are like really, really open to collaboration. Some others are not so much, a little bit bit more intense. But I think it's just there's so much other people not using NFTs right now. If we focus on them rather than grabbing other people's customers, then that's just a waste of brain space.
I mean, just looking at the number of people that are active in the NFT space just overall, it's still such a small handful. I think like in 2019, it was still hovering around like 100,000 unique active ETH addresses. But I think that this year, the education, letting people know like what's possible, showing them the actual use cases, letting them use the use cases, I think it's going to be huge to make the pie bigger for everyone involved. And like you mentioned, help everyone kind of find their own niches to grow and expand within the NFT space.
Yeah, because the weird thing that we all get is that interoperability thing, right? Someone mints something on my platform, it's immediately available on OpenSea. Like, how can we make that weird and interesting? Like, there's so many things we can do with it. Just like in crypto, you said what's next. I would love to see crypto voxels, and I just need to write the documentation to do it, to basically say, hey, import these 4 lines of code, and you can actually buy an NFT within crypto voxels without having to go out to OpenSea or to click to Mintbase's Pez dispenser. Like, that kind of stuff is where we're going to start pushing and experimenting. But then when you think of the brain space of it, it kind of misses the idea of the blockchain, right? Oh, I got to go jump to another website to go get the thing, versus like, hey, I have access to blockchain, obviously, because we're tracking the property rights of the NFT. So if I have a connection to that, then all you have to do is basically say, all right, grab this smart contract from this group and then buy. That'll be fun.
Dude, I want to hang out with like on a Mintbase like brainstorming session and like hear you guys kick around all these like weird and interesting ideas. This is like all my jam, and I'm fascinated with all like the bizarre practical applications that people haven't even thought of, and I've always felt like this is the way everything is heading. It's just how to get the word out and get the rest of the world on board and everything. What I've been asking this question to a lot of people lately. I feel like everyone's got their little stash of stuff in their ETH wallet. What do you guys have? Anything sitting in yours, or what are you guys collecting or sitting on, or bizarre things from crypto voxels, or what's in your guys' wallets?
Mm-hmm.
I'm opening mine up right now.
So I have some wearables from crypto voxels that were gifted to me from. From you guys. Did you do this?
Oh, yeah, that might have been me.
Yeah, exactly. That's you, right? I got the cane, the Christmas hat, and this penguin hat. Thank you.
I got some Alex Masmay's NFTs. I got some, I got all sorts of stuff. I got my crypto skateboards, my wearables. I got some hats and a German flag. My ENS to name, obviously, and then, all the good stuff. Oh, NFT NYC. We didn't even mention that. So that's coming up in New York. So if you're going to that, make sure you get an NFT ticket. If you buy with Eventbrite, I'll be very disappointed and give you an evil eye.
Cool. Well, on that point, NFT NYC, that's definitely a big thing. But if you guys want to plug anything else that you want people to check out, like whether it be community or your next events, this is your chance.
Sure. So if you're interested in the Minters DAO, you can join our Telegram. It's just Mintbase. So t.me/Mintbase. You got anything?
So we are looking for like new crypto voxels ideas. So we have some things in mind, but we will keep you updated like on Twitter. And if you have any ideas like to the listeners, just like contact us. We are always up for like new things and experimentation.
Yep. And if you're running an event, make sure they're NFT tickets.
Exactly.
We're building a lot of stuff to make that very, very easy.
Cool. Well, thank you both for a really, really fascinating, detailed, and exciting conversation. I hope everyone that listens to this gets just as excited, and I hope that a lot of the points, particularly as they relate to like metadata and saving to like IPFS, I hope that's clarified for everyone. So again, like thank you both for joining, and I really wish you two the best and keep on building.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the support.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers.
Podcast. Scent Podcast. Scent Podcast.